I've become a big fan of these Mercedes recently. They have turned out to be very, very exciting and very well made cars. Let's start with the interior of this car. The better models, if you like, have sewn, stitched dashboard. This one has the plastic one, which although feels a little bit cheap and tacky, oddly enough, it is robust and it looks pretty damn good. One feature of the dashboard on Mercedes is the dials. The dials are very clear, crystal clear in fact. They're not complicated, although they could be more elementary, it has to be said. They're very attractive looking. If anything was a little bit confusing about the dashboard, I would say there's probably a bit too much information crammed into those little dials. Further still, this is yet another car whereby the speed dials are blocked with the top of the steering wheel. I mean, obviously you can move the steering wheel around and change the steering and move the seat around, but what happens if you're in a position that makes you comfortable? You don't want to move all that. It doesn't happen in every car, but for some reason the Mercedes is an issue. The rest of the dashboard, very flash, very contemporary, very attractive. Everything is beautifully laid out. I mean, the buttons here are laid out like the calculator. Couldn't be easier. No confusing dials. Once you know your way around here, you can find everything in the dark as far as I'm concerned. The seats are very comfortable, they're very easily adjusted, and they've got those lovely wraparound kidney backs, if you like. So when you're in your seat, you're going to stay in your seat. A lot of cars don't have those, and you end up sliding all over the place. The roof has an unusual shape to it from the interior. They've designed it that way to give you that extra headroom, but I must admit, right in front of your head you have like a bit of a bulkhead, and although your head doesn't bang on it, you are aware of the fact that you're looking down through the ceiling rather than out across it. I think the rear view mirror, very clear, a lot of vision there, but the side mirrors I personally think are too low. It wouldn't hurt putting them up a little bit. The A pillar is not too big and bulky. It's not obstructing my vision. The B pillar is a little bit chunky on the other side, and that could be a problem at times, I think. The car does feel a little bit claustrophobic, although it could be worse. The trim inside the vehicle is very nicely finished off. The area around the gear stick, this being a manual, is very nicely finished with this brushed steel effect, which doesn't feel cheap or tinny. They've finished that off rather well. Back seats, plenty of room. In fact, the upholstery and the general trim and finish of this car on the interior is very, very nice. It's designed to look good and be durable at the same time. This is not a big engine car by any means, and it feels a little bit jerky and jittery. I think it would not have hurt to put a bigger engine in this. A lot of people get a bit irritated with the indicator spokes on the Mercedes. The reason for that being that not only are they the indicators, they're the windscreen wipers as well. Most people seem to associate having one on the left and one on the right, whereas on the right here of the Mercedes there's absolutely no spokes at all. Yet on the left you have two. One that does everything, and then the cruise control. There's quite a lot of noise coming from this car, which is surprising for Mercedes. It's not a quiet car. And the actual noise itself is not so much from the engine, it's it's more from underneath the car, particularly towards the rear. I'm very aware of noise underneath the car at the rear, which is very, very unusual, and furthermore I'm aware of noise under the front as well. I don't really know what the story is there. The car is a little bit floaty. There's a bit of boatiness going on here. I wouldn't say the shock absorbers are the sports type at all, and I think with a car of this size it's worth sacrificing a little bit of luxury just to have that stiffness in the suspension, because there may be a time when you've got to swerve out of a lane in a motorway at a considerable speed, and you don't want the car to be doing that bolting around, boating sensation, which makes the car kind of feel like it's in two pieces, like it's articulated. You're nowhere near as much in control of the car when you've got the soft suspension. Now the brakes on this car are fantastic. They are so smooth, beautifully applied, and they're not aggressive in any way at all. You don't have any grippy, grabby brakes. Now I've got the direct like sunlight onto the dashboard, I must admit it does look a little bit plastic. It's got like an artificial leather finish to it, and even though it would be fantastically durable, you know, it is plastic, and it lets you know it is. The car itself feels like it wants a bigger engine. It's it kind of feels like it feels like a boy wearing his dad's shoes. There's space for something more here, and it kind of feels a bit more like a lady's car, to be honest. Acceleration, well, it's by no means a fast car, this, and I think it's rather boring to drive actually in terms of performance, but the actual ride itself is so comfortable. The steering is fantastic. The steering is actually very light indeed, and it's a very easy car to drive, but it's just got no speed whatsoever. And I think this would probably make a very reliable car, but it's a very boring car to drive, and it kind of feels like it's had its dancing shoes taken off, for wanting of a better word. So all I can really say about this car at this stage is it's finished off fantastically. It's a very comfortable car to drive. It's a little underpowered, but it certainly has a quality luxury feel to it, and it's a very attractive vehicle.